Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another, pretty much a metal update here. So let's just jump into it. Most of this stuff is stuff that I've bought over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. First up, I've been talking about this label on just about every vinyl update just because they're putting out some great stuff. This is Wax Maniacs again, and this is Masquerade in Blood from Sodom. There's a lot of people that don't like this album. I actually really like it. You know, they left the traditional thrash or the Teutonic thrash sound for a little while there, and they went more a punk route. Especially on the album prior to this, and with this, they were moving back in the thrash direction. So this has a real crossover sound to it, which, if you watch my videos over the last few years, you'll know I'm a big fan of crossover thrash. So this is one of those albums that I've just always kind of dug from this band. So I was really excited when I heard that they were Wax Maniacs was releasing it. It came with this Sodom sticker, and it's on, I can't remember what they call this, but it's a really cool red and gold vinyl, and it sounds phenomenal. I've given this one a bunch of spins since it came in. Keep your eyes out. The next couple releases, and they haven't given an official date. I think they've given up on giving dates because every time they've given a release date, because of the vinyl plants, they haven't made the deadline. So for the last few releases, they've just popped up, so you've almost got to keep an eye on their Facebook and their webpage. But the next two are going to be Artillery's debut, and then I can't remember, it may be Thrash Anthems from Destruction. So I believe those are the next two that they're going to be repressing, which is cool because if you guys, and it may be over at this point, there was only a couple days left, but Destruction was actually doing a crowdfunding for Thrash Anthems Part 2, so I pre-ordered that as well, and I believe that they're only doing that through the crowdfunding. I don't think they're going to do a mass release of this album. I think it's going to be a promo only thing, and they're doing it themselves. They're not doing it through their labels. So I would go and check that out. I want to say it was on, I believe it was Pledge Music that they were doing it through. Regardless, let's jump into the next one. So this one, I've owned this album since pretty much the day it came out. Almost every single song on this album are classics. But I ran across this particular pressing. This is a Rocktober pressing from October of last year, and I found it for $11, so I went ahead and grabbed it. It's a recent repress of Stay Hungry. I've got multiple original pressings of this, so I didn't really need it, but for $11, it was worth it. And it's on this really cool, like purple and pink, I guess. Vinyl, and it sounds great. I don't think it sounds as good as the original pressing on black vinyl, which I have as well, but still kind of a cool piece there. Next up, so this band, I didn't like this band at all for years, and I'm slowly coming around to getting into them. I really got into them with their second to last album, Once More Around the Sun, which is kind of hard to see, but I've got a signed copy of it right there. And I'm talking about Mastodon. I still don't like their first album, but I'm slowly coming around to the others. And the issue that I have with them is I just think that they overproduce their stuff. And I'm not just saying production-wise, like it's super produced. I'm saying everything is overdone. When there's... They try to add progressive elements, and they add too many elements sometimes. And I've always thought that was an issue with them. And they've always had songs I didn't like and songs I like. And it's slowly kind of seeping in. I'm slowly starting to dig them. So now whenever I run across a copy of their album for a good price, I pick it up. So I finally ran across Blood Mountain. I found it for like $10. So I wasn't going to pass up on it. And this one was a limited run. I got a really good deal on this. It's on yellow, I believe, and red vinyl. This was a real limited pressing, and these things go for 50, 60 bucks on Discogs and eBay. So I was pretty shocked to get it for as little as I did. And now that I think about that, I think I paid closer to 15 for it, but still. Killer price. I've now met the guys from the band twice, and the guys are all really cool. They love the fans. I've got nothing but good things to say about the band. It's just taken me a while to get into their music. But now that I'm into it, like I said, I'm kind of digging it. Next up, this is one of my favorite albums of the year so far. This right now is in my top 3 albums of the year. I'm completely blown away by this band. If you like traditional thrash, you've got to get this album. They've made waves with each of their albums. I've now got their debut on CD. This is the first one that they've released on vinyl. Their second album on CD has been really hard to get a hold of, but I'm actually probably going to get this one on CD as well. But this is Toxic End from Free Kings. And man, these guys are amazing. Just straight up traditional thrash, and they do it so good. I would really like to see these guys blow up. They definitely deserve it. And like I said, it doesn't get much better than this. This is definitely in my top 3 of the year right now. Next up, Thrash Masters. They kind of got away from thrash a little bit for a while. A lot of people don't like this album. I absolutely love it. I honestly, I can't think of anything from this band that I haven't been a huge fan of. And I'm really glad to finally have this on vinyl. This is Killbox 13 from Overkill. This was, when was this? 2012. This is a limited pressing by the Vinyl Countdown. This is number 398 of 1,000. They don't go for that much money. You can get them for 20, 25 bucks. So for all you Overkill fans out there, I highly recommend grabbing this one while you still can. Next up, as I was mentioning before, I've been slowly building up the Motorhead collection. As I run across stuff for a decent price, I grab it. It's funny, I didn't initially like this album. I remember listening to it years ago and not really liking it. This is one of those albums where I prefer the B-side to the A-side, but it's still a great album across the board. It's Another Perfect Day. And again, this is one of the represses from a couple years ago, 2014, I think, on Sanctuary. And again, they did a great job, and I've been finding these things for 10, 12, 15 bucks, and anytime I do, I snatch them up. Next up, this I think is probably the best of the heavy metal hard rock bands from the 80s, late 70s, early and through the 80s from Japan. This is Bow Wow. And this one is Shockwaves. It's kind of a weird album. So most of this album is Bow Wow 3, but then there's a couple of other songs, maybe one song from Bow Wow's first and second album as Bow Wow. If you guys aren't familiar with this band, they were Bow Wow. Started out in the 70s as Bow Wow. In the, I believe, 82-ish, they changed their name to Bow Wow. I'm sure for legal reasons. And then they later released stuff as Bow Wow again. But man, this era of the band is absolutely phenomenal. They had a new singer during this period. His name was Genki Hitomi. The guy's vocals are phenomenal. His vocals remind me a lot of Deep Purple. And I'm trying to think of the singer. And I can't think of this, but it reminds me of one of the Deep Purple singers. you would not know, you would never guess that it's a Japanese singer singing this on these albums. And it's kind of unfortunate that when he left Bow Wow a couple years later, he decided to leave music. He's now a teacher in Japan. He went to school and became a teacher, which is cool too. Don't get me wrong, but these Bow Wow albums from the '80s are must-haves. It's just phenomenal across the board. Highly recommend picking up anything by this band. Next up, we got a little bit of Bullet, No Mercy, from the German hard rockers. If you haven't heard Bullet, think 80s era Scorpions, I guess. Is probably the closest connection. Good album, not great. It's one of those albums I would have loved in the 80s as it was coming out. I like some of the songs on here. It's kind of cool to revisit it, but not something that I'm going to throw in on a regular basis, and not something I'm going to be really desiring. If I want to hear that style of music, I'll throw on some Scorpions. But still a good album. It's still worth having. No Mercy. I believe that's their second album, and it may be their last album too. Let's see. And we'll go last but not least. This album is another must-have, just killer 80s heavy metal. This band, it may have been 90s when this came out. I don't remember when this originally came out, but this is one of the most recent releases from Rock's Records, Sacred Warrior. I love this band. Artwork by Scott Waters here, or cleaned up by Scott Waters. They did a killer job on this pressing here. Highly recommend grabbing this while you can. There's only a few copies left, but this has been on my workout, one of my workout playlists for quite some time, this album, and it's just amazing from beginning to end, and definitely one that you should have in the collection. And then playing in the background, Technical Thrash Masters, one of my favorite bands from the 90s. This is No More Color from Coroner. And again, there's rumors that they're supposed to be releasing an album this year, but I was just on their website recently, and they're still on tour, so I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. We're halfway through the year now, so even if they did get in the studio by the end of the year, I don't see that album coming out this year. But if you like thrash, Coroner is where it's at. This is one of the best metal bands that nobody talks about. Best thrash bands that nobody talks about. This is one of those bands that every hardcore thrash guy, every musician, every thrash musician, if you talk about them, they talk about how great this band is. But you never see any real love for the band, whether it's in magazines or in the different metal communities. Their albums are all phenomenal, though. That's it, guys. I should have another update pretty soon. I hope all is well. Take care.